You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round, and you can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Move mountains, we gon' walk it out and move mountains, and I'll rise up, I'll rise like...
Good evening, and welcome to another edition of the Rankin Valley Pittsburgh section of the National Council of Negro Women. My name is Dolores Dupree, Section President, and joining me is Alicia Gibbs, our Section First Vice President. We thank all of you who have participated in our program in the past, and we hope that you will join us again today. You can participate by calling 412-231-2288 to speak with our special guests, Dr. Reverend Darryl Canady and Reverend Taleeta Canady. The number will remain on the screen. This program satisfies two of our national mandates. One is to disseminate information about issues affecting African American women and their families, and the other one is to provide mentoring and educational support to our young people. Also, one of our Four for the Future initiatives is to promote science, technology, engineering, and math education. Before we welcome our guests, we will give you a brief overview of the Life Mel STEAM Academy and its founders. Alicia, will you give that brief overview?
Yes. Good evening. Dr. Darryl Canady, who is with us this evening, holds a Doctor of Ministry degree. We also have with us Reverend Taleeta Canady, who holds a Master of Education degree. They're both of Rodman Street Missionary Baptist Church. In 2015, they founded the Life Mel Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Math Academy. They believe a STEAM curriculum will equip male scholars with the skills necessary to succeed globally in the 21st century. It is the only K-12 male academy with a STEAM-focused course of study in the region. LIFE stands for Living Intelligently, Fulfilling Expectations. The teachers of the academy will prepare students using inquiry-based science and math education. They will use an integrated curriculum, and the academy will include project-based group learning and career awareness. The mission of the academy is to prepare all male scholars for college success and career readiness. It will also serve as a catalyst to increase the presence of African American males in the STEM pipeline. The Life Mel STEAM Academy will be surrounded by a village of high-quality educators, corporate professionals, and community leaders. They believe in the adage, it takes a village to raise a child. The Village of Life will provide wraparound services for the students, their families, and the community, which will include science career and technology makerspace, health and wellness pavilion, a family recreation center, a public library and performing arts center, a center for spiritual enrichment, a community engagement center, a university education and research complex, a sportsplex, and also corporate offices. Welcome to the program, Dr. and Reverend Canady, and thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you for having us.
We have a portion of the STEAM Saturdays video clip, which is a pilot for the Life Mel STEAM Academy. We're going to run that first, and then we'll ask you some questions about the Academy. Can you please run the clip?
We are so proud of the accomplishment that they have made. We started out the program, as I said, in September with 18 boys, and only 15 have endured and stayed the course. So I think that in and of itself deserves some applause.
This is a pilot for the school that we're going to begin in 2020. It's called Life Male Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Math Academy. It's going to be centered around STEM, and we added the arts so that our young men can be prepared for jobs in the 21st century. What I often say is that Pittsburgh has done a great job of reinventing itself. 30 years ago, a young man can graduate from high school, go and work in the steel mill for 40 years and make a good living. That is not the case today. So Pittsburgh has done a good job in transforming itself into a city that's known for technology, eds, and meds. But African American males in particular are lagging behind in the STEM pipeline, not only in Pittsburgh, but all over the world. So we want to be able to help these young men to have an opportunity to be able to compete globally in the 21st century. So this school is going to be something that's going to change Pittsburgh. It's going to change the trajectory of generations to come. So these young men are serving as our pilot. They are all going to be too old once the school starts, but they're going to be the foundation setters for what we are trying to do to build upon the 21st century job market for these young men. These young men are bright, they are brilliant, they are articulate, and we are excited about them participating in this program, and we are looking forward to following their academic and life and career progress along the way.
I just want to say that I'm so thankful for this program. From every Saturday that the young boys got together, my son in particular, and I can tell from speaking with everyone when they did their presentations, but he really learned the importance of collaborative work. The program helped to stimulate creativity, problem solving, analytical skills, and just in hearing what they said this morning, I can tell that the main thing that they probably have taken away from this is that it has stirred up something in them that they didn't realize was there, but just given the opportunity, it has helped that to come to life. And then to see that oftentimes as we progress, it is trial and error, and it's really sticking to what you've determined to do. So I'm so thankful for the opportunity that LifeSTEAM has provided.
Good morning, scholars and teachers and volunteers. I just want to take this moment to really say that LifeSTEAM Saturdays has really been a learning and growing experience for my son. He's been exposed to technology and printers that he hasn't otherwise been exposed to on a daily basis through school. But outside of that, he's really had the opportunity to meet great students and great friends in the area, and we are thankful for the opportunity from Dr. Canady and the Fab Lab and all the parents who have dedicated their time and have brought their children here every Saturday. So thank you all, and we've had a great time. We're sad that it's over.
Labs and the infusion of technology and knowledge and the ability to be precise and to have an expanded understanding of how things work and how things grow. What it does is that it increases and helps a student to use their imagination, okay, to develop some skills, and their understanding is beyond what you generally see among students in the public school system. I'm a public school system person, and I know the realities of it, but this individualized approach to allowing students to work in a lab format and to have facilitators who can give individualized attention to each student based upon their need. I understood how precise it had to be, because little boxes, if one thing was a centimeter off, then it can't be produced. And you have to go back and find the...
This is so exciting. It's so exciting. For audience members who are just tuning in, can one of you talk a little bit about that acronym, STEAM, STEAM?
Well, STEAM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Math. It is the opportunity for the 21st century jobs. In Pittsburgh, as I said earlier in the video, we were a steel mill town. Those jobs are no longer here en masse, so we have to go into the 21st century, and Pittsburgh has done a great job of becoming a city that's known for technology and medicine and education. And so with this, in the 21st century, this will allow our students to be able to compete globally.
So what is the significance? This is an all-male school. What's the significance of having an all-male school?
Well, in our own experience with our children, we have seen the benefit of single-gender education. The obvious benefit is that it removes a lot of distractions. But then, specific to educating males, it is a difference between educating males and females. And so with that, bringing this school being all males, we're going to target those social skills and developmental skills that are specific to training and educating African American boys.
I went to Morehouse College, which is an all-male school, which is right across the street from an all-female school. And our son, he graduated from Kiski Prep, which was an all-male boarding school. And our daughter graduated from Oakland Catholic, which is an all-female high school here in the city. So we understand the value of the single-gender education. And what that would do, that would knock out some of those distractions. The boys don't have to try to impress the girls, and they don't have to try to dumb down. And we want to really help them to understand that they can be strong in who they are.
Absolutely.
Now, the school is going to be a charter school rather than a private school. So why have you chosen it to be a charter school rather than a private school?
Well, purely for reasons of sustainability. We know that it would be a challenge for many of the students that are going to be drawn to this school for them to afford to pay tuition. And we want to remove that barrier and make it accessible, make a quality education accessible for all. So thus needing those government funds so that we can make sure that everyone has the opportunity to attend the academy.
Okay, good reason. Now, there's always a debate as to why students need to wear uniforms rather than using their own creativity and being able to wear what they want to wear. So what's the rationale between having a uniform dress or using your own creativity? What's the benefit of having uniform dress?
We have the 7 wells of life, which are behind us, and one of them is well-dressed. When a young man is well-dressed, he is professional, he is not judged. You don't have to try to have the latest this and that. So we want to try to take away those things, but we want to help them to understand that if you're going to get a job, if you're going to be able to get into colleges and other things, there's a certain way that you have to look, that you have to speak, and the way that you have to articulate yourself. So dress is so important. So we want to take away any of the things that will distract them, such as dress. And we're talking about staff down. Staff is going to come, and they also are going to wear blazers, and we're going to look professional. We want this school to be a school of excellence, and one way you do that is the way that you look.
Nice, I like that. I like the fact that staff will be wearing uniforms too.
Oh, yeah, because we are the example. And unfortunately, just to add to what Dr. Canady has said, unfortunately, when we walk into a room, unfortunately, our first impression is often made through our appearance. And so preparing them for the workforce will begin with their experience inside of the building, and that goes back to the dress.
I remember when I was in school, arts was completely integrated within the curriculum. Now that's many, many years ago. But now many schools are eliminating the arts curriculum. Why do you think it's important to include arts in the curriculum?
We added the arts intentionally because our children are so artistically gifted. And we have to be able to offer them the opportunity to be as creative as their abilities and their minds will allow them. And so I think to remove that opportunity would be a terrible mistake. And if you and back to that term, that integrated curriculum, we can see in literature we have art, in history there's art, in math there's art, and quite honestly, that art is going to be the link for some to make that connection to math or to literature or to history.
Exactly. Yeah. In the video that we just viewed, we hear from a few parents, and we heard from one of your board members. So evidently you have your board in place, you have a nice long list of partners that are in place. Can you tell me how important it is to have the parents in place, and what role will they play in the academy?
It's very important. We believe that we have to not only educate that boy, but we have to also help his family. That's why we're going to provide wraparound services for them. Because you can educate that boy, but if you send him back to the wrong environment every night, every weekend, all summer, then some of the gains that you have made with that young man would not be there. So what we want to do, we want to have our parents heavily involved. There are certain things that their sons would not be able to participate in unless the parents are on board and heavily involved. From day one, we want to make sure that the expectations that we have of the students as well as the parents are properly disseminated so that we can get buy-in from their families.
I hear about various online schools. Will there be any type of interactive online component to the Life Mel STEAM Academy?
In terms of, not in the sense of like a cyber school, the students will be in the building every day, but they will be heavily involved in technology. We had a group of students involved in a program this past school year, and we'll get to that a little later. And the entire program was steeped in technology. The person who led the program talks in the video. If you go online and watch the entire video, he talked about being able to communicate with individuals in other countries, and in order to exchange information as they worked on projects. And so in terms of they will be in the building, heavily involved in technology, but not in the sense where we will be offering online courses for someone to take from home, no.
What we're trying to also do is to help these students to be global. You know, the world now through the internet has become global. And so we want to try to teach these young men that they are not just competing with the boy that's sitting next to them or the boy that's in the next class, but they are competing with students from all over the world. So we're going to have the highest level of technology. Our goal is for each of our young scholars to have laptops and or iPads to take home with them, to help them to continue to develop their skills in this technologically advanced world. And the funny thing is that these kids are better at it than many of us as adults with their game consoles and things of that nature. So we're going to help them to understand that learning is fun. And that's what we want to try to help them to understand.
Okay. Well, we have another part of the clip that will show a little bit about what you're talking about. Can we roll that video clip?
The difficulties, and these young men showed their willingness to do that.
Good morning. Again, my name is Ben. And if you're thinking right now, well, what exactly is a Fab Lab? What have these men been coming to every single Saturday? A Fab Lab is a makerspace. A makerspace is just where you make stuff. So a kitchen can be a makerspace. A workshop can be a makerspace. But how this makerspace is different is we are telling the machines what to make, by using computers. It's a digital makerspace or fabrication laboratory. Fab Lab is a type of makerspace which is a network. So whenever I started this job, whenever they said, oh, you're going to be part of the Fab Lab and this is a really cool thing, I said, oh, cool, this must be some like little tiny thing part of the Carnegie Science Center. So only when I started to be here that I realized that the Fab Lab is actually an international network of all of these makerspaces. I've actually sat here and talked with people from Madagascar and Nigeria and all these different countries, and they Skype in and they go, hey, so how do you do this? And I'm like, oh, well, this is what you do. And so now all of these men over here are part of that international network. They can tap into that and say, hey, like I'm part of this Fab Lab, like how do I do this and how do I get into that? And we really want to make sure that it's as hands-on as possible and we're all helping one another as a global community. Here in this makerspace, makerspaces are a little bit different, but some of the tools that we have, you may have heard of 3D printing before. 3D printing is really cool. It's also rather slow. So 3D printing is usually for more finalized prototypes, but we also have over there our main workhorse, the laser cutter. And so the laser cutter can cut anything from wood to foam core to cardboard to chocolate to tons of different things. And so that is mainly what the men over here used throughout these 9 months. But how this worked is it started off and I would say, all right, here's a little project you can do and then do that. And here's another little project you can do and you can do that. And they use the programs on here. Highly recommend downloading the programs that we use. They're totally free. Inkscape is one. It's Adobe Illustrator, but it, again, is totally free. But by the end of it, I was thinking, you know what, they need something bigger to grasp onto. They need a capstone project. And so what I said to them was, here are your guidelines. Your capstone project has to use at least one of the machines in the room. So it could either use the laser cutter, the 3D printer, or what I failed to mention is the vinyl cutter, so it has big stickers. So you have to use at least one of the machines in the room, and your project has to help at least one other person. And they would say, well, what about this? I said, well, does it fit those two things? They said, yeah. I'm like, all right, go do it. So instead of being me standing up there, it transitioned towards the end of their time here into they would just come in and they would just start making. This morning, I had about 5 of them come up to me and say, all right, so during this part of the program, can I actually be working on this? This is how motivated they are. They want to keep working. They want to keep up that iterative process. So instead of presentations being, the boys coming up here and talking, we thought instead to show you what a Fab Lab looks like. And so what is going to happen is they're going to be stationed around the room, and this is going to be a networking event. So I invite you to walk up to each one of them, ask them different questions. Ask them what was your favorite part? What are you currently working on? How does this work? And they can walk you through that process as well.
So what I have here is a terrarium. It's basically an ant farm. So these are used by ant enthusiasts who like to breed ants. So I guess I should tell you about how the ant cycle works, right? So at first there's the queen elate, right? The queen elate needs to be mated from male elate. Then she eventually loses her wings and then has to find somewhere to breed. To lay her eggs. So then she hatches female workers because all female workers are female. And then it's continues. Eventually, when there's enough water or enough food and habitat, she'll start making new female and male elates that travel to other colonies. So, ant enthusiasts, we like to capture that experience. We like to see that close up. This specifically is for a species called Tetramorium. It's more like sidewalk ants. The ants that you just see, those little tiny ants that you see crawling around all the time, that's for Tetramorium.
This is like a toy box kind of for my little brother because you know how when you get to a fast food restaurant and they give you toys, and so my little brother usually leaves them in the car, and I didn't want to pick up after him, so I made him a little toy box so he could keep his toys in until he gets home to put in his toy box. It was kind of hard because we had to build it layer by layer in Tinkercad. And then, so as a prototype, then we had to get a chip and put it into the 3D printer. And this took about 20 hours to make. I use this. So these are like your basic shapes for you to make it. So I use 4 blocks, and then I went to text and numbers, and then I just clicked on it and put it on his name.
So I tried to make a paper sorter where you could hold like certain important documents or letters or bills, something that you won't want to keep track of. I tried to make one for my mom because she's leaving papers everywhere. I go to the kitchen table, there's like 3 different papers. There's different papers laying around who I'm trying to eat. So I tried to make a paper sorter where you could hold your papers. When I was creating my paper sorter on Inkscape, which is a computer software where you can make different objects from a virtual computer. You can add squares, circles, stars, whatever you want, really. So I made a paper sorter using it, but I ran into a lot of difficulties making it. For example, one day I spent 20 minutes trying to get my computer back online, and my final project, I made my overall canvas too small, so my project didn't come out of scale, so no papers would really fit in it. I didn't have time to remake it, but I've learned from my mistakes. The project was supposed to be like 8.5 inches by 12 inches or something like that. I learned from my mistakes, and if I have an opportunity to make one again, I'll try to make it better.
And everything that's not black, the individual spider itself is going to get cut out. So basically, we're going to get a spider that has stuff etched on it, but you're actually still going to get a spider on its own with those type of legs, with the body and everything that's there.
This is the 3D printer?
No, this is laser cutter.
Laser cutter.
As you see, it's forming a top leg right there. So any black is going up and down and side to side. So it's going up and down to see how much black there is and which black is there. And then it's going side to side to etch everything in so it can get enough space and enough distance so that it gets every single line right. So my project is a 5x7, so we'll stop at 5. Wait, hold up. Okay, so 7's right there and 5's right there, so that's how big the spider's gonna be, as you see on the screen.
Hold up in front of your shirt. Right about there, yeah. Now what did that? What is this printer?
Laser printer.
The laser printer did that.
Yeah. I'm about to make initials for my grandfather. I'm using Inkscape.
As I went through this, the hardest part was just making it deep enough so that you could put like things inside of it, but also not making it too deep where the things would fall out the front or out the go all the way through the bottom.
How could you tell? Like, how were you able to test it to make sure that it wasn't deep enough or wasn't too deep?
Okay, I would pretty much mainly just look at it from this view, and so if you see the box, so like you see how I can move it around the inside. If you ever saw it like come out this far or up here, like down there, then you would know like that it wasn't like it was out of place. Just how
the program that you're using now to show all this sign?
This is Tinkercad.
You're working on this? You're printing this right now. What is it?
It's a Steelers logo.
A Steelers logo. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
A keychain.
I made a 3D printed pencil holder. Using this pencil holder, I had to download an image offline, and I had to make the pencil holder wider, and I had to make it the height smaller. So what I did was I downloaded it onto here using Tinkercad, and I made it smaller. And using the 3D printer, it took 3 hours to make, but because it prints layer by layer like a fishing line, but it's a plastic filament. And this holds, it was worth it because it holds markers, pens, and pencils.
This is a coaster. So many people complain about rings around their tables and how most of their families aren't really prepared enough. So you can design it. I have my favorite basketball team on there, and a demonstration is this water bottle. Most water bottles create a ring around your table or a counter or whatever. So whenever you put it on here, it prevents rings, but it still make it dirty at times, but it's washable. You can color it, and when you're done with that, I also made a coaster box, I should say. So when you put it in here, you won't have to worry about the hassle of thinking you forgot it, because you could put your name or your address or whatever. So if you lose it, someone can just obtain it.
Now, what did you use to make that?
I used the 3D printer to make the coaster, and I used the vinyl woodcutter to create the box.
I made a Toad for my little cousin because he likes Mario, and I'm gonna print this right here, so it's gonna be a different color, and then I'm going to paint it to look like this real quick. So it's gonna look like that once I'm done painting it, right there.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
This is a controller holder. So what you do is to organize your game station to make it more, just more organized so your controllers aren't everywhere. What you do is you could put your controllers around the pulls for more grip, and so that your station is well organized. And so what I did was I tried to print it out, but mine was too big for the printer, so it did not print out. So I'm gonna keep trying, and yeah, so that's the controller holder.
Bob.
All right, so you can see how talented and creative those young men are. Well, we do have a caller, though. Before we finish, can we take that caller? Because he's been holding for a long time. Caller, please say your name and where you're calling from.
Yes, my name is Jim. I'm calling from East End.
Hi, Jim. How are you?
I'm fine. I just wanted to say I'm enjoying the show, but I do have a few questions.
Okay.
And my first question is, I know the school's just getting started. I was wondering if they gave any thought to maybe making it a military charter school. And the reason I say that, so many of our young men, they just don't have enough discipline or respect because some come from disadvantaged homes. So I was just wondering if they have any thought about that.
We have had lots of thoughts about that, and you are not the only one who has asked that question. The male scholars at Life MSA will be on one track, and that is college. They will all be college bound. We have discussed the option of allowing military recruiters in to engage our students, but right now they will not be allowed because we want every student in that building to have one thing on their mind, and that is college. We're heading to college. And I hear you about the discipline and the respect. We are structuring this school, and if you take a look at those wells of life behind us, we are structuring the school in such a way that discipline, structure will be a part of the daily norm for the students.
And respect for authority, teamwork, camaraderie, all of those types of things that you may have in a military type school. But we want to stress discipline cultural relevance and understanding where they came from and who they are. Our mascot is Kings. So we're going to teach these young men to live, act, respect like kings.
And the expectations, I have, my background is in education, and I have seen where when we set our expectations down here low, well, that's about as far as they're going to go. But when we set those expectations high, when we tell them that this is what we expect from you, I have seen students rise to that challenge and rise and meet those expectations. So I believe in, and that's another thing that we both wholeheartedly believe in. It's all about expectations, and they will know from day one what is expected of them.
The name of the school is LIFE, and it's an acronym, which has been said earlier, Living Intelligently, Fulfilling Expectations. So from day one, out of the gate, it's going to be high expectations.
Yes.
So thank you for calling. Did you have any other questions?
Yes, I do. Will other races be able to attend the school?
Absolutely.
Yes.
It is open for all races, all males. Particularly, we want to help to serve as a catalyst to get African American males into the STEM pipeline. However, the school is open to all.
Yes.
Okay, just a couple more questions. In 5 years, how many students would you like to have in your school?
Well, the school is going to be tiered. We're going to start with 6th and 7th grade in year one, which is 2020. And then we're going to ramp up from there. And it takes 10 years for the school to ramp up to a K-12 academy. So in about 5 years, we're thinking about, I think it's about 360 students.
All right. Okay. Well, are you good?
Yeah, just two more questions, and I'll hang up to listen for the answers. Will there be sports teams, because I'm a sports fan? And how can someone make a contribution? I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you very much for your call.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you so much.
Yes, we will have sports teams eventually. But of course, the young men, until that happens, they are able to play on the sports teams from the school district that they came from. So we will provide that opportunity for them. But the way that you can contribute to the school, go to our website, life, L-I-F-E, STEAM.org. LifeSTEAM.org. And on there, you will see how you can donate. And we take all credit cards and any other form of payment. And thank you so much, because when you give, you are giving life to a scholar.
All right. Thank you, James, for calling. We have 2 more calls. First caller, please say your name and where you're calling from.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Beverly, and I'm calling from the Hill District.
Hi, Beverly.
I just want to say that I really believe this program is going to be very, very successful. The previous caller did ask, well, Dr. Canady did answer my question, because I did want to know about the cultural and historical aspect of the school and letting the black young men know where they came from. But you've answered that saying they're going to be kings, and I just think that is so important that they know really where they came from beyond slavery, and I think that strengthens them. I also wanted to ask, since you're doing this cultural, I wanted to ask about the aspect of racism and teaching them how to overcome it, or when they're faced with it, how to stand up and without it breaking them down or making them feel a certain way. How do you strengthen the king in them? But I know the school's going to be successful, because I'm listening to all the particular parts that you're putting into it, you and your wife, and I think it's going to be a wonderful success, and I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a good question.
One of the keys is self-esteem. We have to help our young men to know, as you said, that they are kings. And from day one, we're going to let them know that they are the very best that God created. They are bright, they are brilliant, they are articulate, they are able to problem solve, they're able to work through their differences. So we're going to make that a part of it from the very beginning. But also, as you said, our history certainly did not begin on the shores of Jamestown, Virginia. We are a rich heritage and a rich history of people. We come from kings and queens, and we're going to let our young men know that they were from the people who were first created, and that's what we want to help them to understand. So we're going to push our culture. We're going to push them being well-read, well-traveled, well-spoken, well-dressed, well-balanced, well-connected, and well-led.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
And thank you for your call.
No, you're welcome. This is a fantastic show. Keep up the good work, National Council of Negro Women. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we have another caller. Caller, please say your name and where you're calling from.
Yes, good evening. My name is Mark, and I'm calling from the North Side.
Hi, Mark.
And I am so sorry that I did not get the whole show, but I caught the tail end of the video. And the energy coming off the video from the students was unbelievable. And if you watch it closely, you could see the light bulb going off in their head on bringing up their individual creativity. And that's something other schools have covered up, or they've tried to manipulate it in a certain political way. My questions, I have a couple of questions, and I would really appreciate it if you can kind of jot them down, because I got a couple of them. I'll hang up because I know you're getting towards the end of your show to let some other callers through. First of all, to the ladies there, your set looks beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay.
We had some enhancement today.
I am amazed at your ability to continue to bring quality programming, informative programming, and I consider myself active. And this is a new issue here for me because I have not heard of the organization, and I'm not too familiar with your guests. But thank you for helping us to expand our knowledge. My question is, as a former board member in the Pittsburgh Public Schools, one of the things that seems to be taking over the district is this political movement of encouraging boys that it's okay to date each other and to get into the questionable sexual activities. And it's often one that we don't want to discuss, but it's running rampant in our schools. And my question is, how would you handle that? Number one. Number two, when it comes to moving forward, now, let me back up. I did not hear. So the school is up and running, or this is proposed for 2020?
2020. It is. We will launch the school in 2020, the fall of 2020.
Have you identified a location?
We have. Yep, it's going to be in Wilkins Township, so it's in the Woodland Hill School District. But we are going to pull boys from all over the region.
Okay. I think the concept would go very well here in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
The thirst for something like this is very high. Just getting it to the right people and the right parents, allowing them to apply and to make their children available to it has always been the key. But the second thing that I wanted to answer, and maybe your answer kind of helped answer that, how would you handle the transportation? How would you handle those students in terms of the grade level? And you mentioned that earlier. But if this thing goes the way it sounds like it should go, you're going to be moving very fast. And so are you prepared to even bring on other grade levels at a quicker rate that would allow others to participate? And can you talk about your staffing? What kind of staffing are you looking for? And what kind of support have you received thus far from those out there who are in the educational community? Have they embraced it? Are they supportive? Do you have a board? Can you share some of those boards? Are you following a particular curriculum? If so, can you talk about who or which one it is? I'll hang up and listen, and this is going to be fascinating. I'm really excited to hear. I'm excited about what I'm hearing from you, and I wish there was a way that we could play that video again in its entirety.
I'm going to tell you this, Mark, and thank you for calling in. You can go to our website, lifesteam.org, and that video will come up on the opening page. So you can look at that all day, every day, and share it with whoever you want to share it with, because we want to get this call out to the world. First of all, your first question, we're just going to love the boys. We're going to love all the boys, and we're going to try to teach them how to live like kings. We have an extensive curriculum that we are working on and trying to develop. We have partnerships with the Carnegie Science Center, with Carnegie Mellon University, University of Pittsburgh. So we are getting a wide range of some of the best in the business, best practices to help us to develop this school. So if you don't mind, if you would just go to our website at lifesteam.org, you'll be able to see that video. You'll be able to have our emails, our contact information, and we would love to answer the rest of your questions.
You also mentioned about transportation and staffing. Our plan is to, we will try to do some recruiting in Pittsburgh, but we will not be limited to Pittsburgh. Our priority right now is to find a headmaster, and he will be male. I didn't know if that was a question that was looming. And we do recognize that that we will not be able to have an all-male teaching staff. So there will be some females, but again, we will begin recruiting for the headmaster in the very, very near future, and then adding to the staff after we find that headmaster.
And we are planning a national search. We want the very best for these young men.
Transportation.
Transportation, you know, the school system will provide that, but I believe that as you look at our website, we're going to have some other ways to get young men to this school.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mark, for your call. Caller, we have another caller. Caller, please say your name and where you're calling from.
Hello, so this is Carolyn, and I'm calling from the Wilkinsburg area.
Hi, Carolyn.
Where, as you know, there's a great need for school choice and school alternatives. And I was just wondering if you could speak to how will interested parents be able to get their students on the waiting list for the school? I know you said it's proposed for 2020. Will there be interviews? Will students need to take any type of entrance exams similar to independent schools, or will they be subject to a lottery?
We will have an application process, and we have not solidified that process yet. Registration for the first school year will begin in the fall of 2019. So in September of 2019, registration for the upcoming school year, for the following school year, which will be our first year, okay, we will start pre-registering.
But it will be on our website, and we are going to begin to have community meetings around the city, around the region, and you will see that also on our website. We're going to go to churches, community events, and we want to get that word out as we are doing tonight through this organization.
Okay, well, thank you.
Well, thank you for the information. As a parent of a student who attended an all-boys school with all-boys education, I think it's a great opportunity you're proposing for our African-American males, and removing the distraction that comes with going to co-education to school with females during these years. I think it's critical, and I love the fact that you talked about setting the bar extremely high and having core values set out there for them to meet and exceed. So good luck to you. I'm sure you'll be successful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have one more caller. Caller, please say your name and where you're calling from.
Hi, this is Deneen Hood from Hampstead, Pennsylvania.
Oh, hi, Deneen.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good. My question, I'm looking at this, and I think that the program is really great as far as educational, and I missed the beginning. but is there going to be a financial literacy component for the students? I'm from a financial background, and that's what I did in my career. But I also volunteered with youth groups, our local Boys and Girls Club, other organizations. And when young people got their first jobs, and we have programs where they could get jobs at 14, their original thought was, I'm going to buy something. It was like something expensive, a very expensive pair of tennis shoes. Some of them even thought about getting cars. They got a $300 check, and for them, that was a lot of money at one time. But I found that I had to educate them first, to understand their needs versus their wants, and planning for their future, and trying to, we don't have, primarily in our community, that generational wealth, but we can start it. And I think this program, in conjunction with that, just wondering if there's going to be something like that with the young people there.
Absolutely. We're going to have wraparound services. We want to help these young men to have a holistic view of life. And part of that is becoming financially literate. So absolutely, you're going to hear a little more about how we're going to provide the wraparound services in the last few minutes of this program today.
Okay, then that's good, great, because the young people that did grasp it, and I have people now, I started when they were young, they're like in their 30s and 40s, and that they're doing quite well now.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for calling.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great lead-in. Her question is a great lead-in to our next question for you both. You talked about your adage, which is, it takes a village to raise a child. And so can you talk a little bit about the 10 components of the Village of Life?
What's really exciting about this school is that it's not just going to be a school. What's going to be different about it is that we're going to surround the school on their campus with what we are calling the Village of Life. Everything for us is centered around that acronym, LIFE, Living Intelligently, Fulfilling Expectations. We have a partnership with the Carnegie Science Center. So we are getting them to work with us to put a science center on the campus, which will serve as a science lab for our boys. We also are going to have technology makerspace, which is to help the young men to become entrepreneurs. And that's where, again, the jobs are coming in the 21st century. We also are going to have a health and wellness pavilion. That pavilion will do everything there except overnight stay and emergency room. But the boys then will be able to shadow doctors and physician assistants and nurses on their campus. And those doctors and others will be able to come into those classrooms to be able to serve as mentors and give lectures to these young men to help them to see what they can become. We're also going to have a family recreational center. That's a long word for a YMCA. And we're going to be able to provide wraparound services for the entire family. So not only will that student be able to have those services, but their parents and their other relatives will also be able to have it. We're going to have a public library on the campus, so it's not just for our students, and we're not just talking about books. We're talking about state-of-the-art technology where these students and others in our community will be able to communicate with those overseas, in China, Japan, or what have you. We're going to have a performing arts center that will seat no less than 3,000. It's going to be a place where we will have plays, we will have concerts, young men will learn the arts, be able to put on plays and productions, but also we'll be able to have Broadway plays from New York and other places to come, not only for our students, but also for the community. We also going to have a spiritual component of it. Because we realize that you have to have a holistic approach. So we're going to have a center for spiritual enrichment that would include churches, but also it would also include seminaries and others to provide services. We also are partnering with universities here to provide a community engagement center. And with the community engagement center, they will be able to provide counseling and other social services to help our students as well as their families. We also going to have a university education and research complex because we believe that this school is going to be a model that will be able to be replicated across the world. And that's what we want to do. So we have some of the greatest universities right here in the city, and we are trying to get them to make this their laboratory school. We're going to have a sportsplex, and we're going to have corporate offices where these young men will be able to have what we call an executive experience, where they can learn in high school and middle school what it is to be a professional, and to begin to track them, put them in a pipeline for their careers. We are going to stop that pipeline from the cradle to prison. And we're saying it's going to be from the cradle to college to career.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes. That is so exciting.
It
I
is.
wish I were a young male who was 13 or 14 and able to enter your school. Oh my gosh, that sounds wonderful. One thing that you talked about, one of the questions that was asked about enrollment, and you talked a little bit about a tiered approach to enrollment, enrolling students in 6th and 7th grade. Are you limiting your class sizes? Are you limiting the number of students that you will bring initially into the school?
We, as was said, we're going to start in the fall of 2020 with 6th and 7th grade. We have some very wonderful and brilliant people who are trying to help us with this plan, and I am one that's been at the table fighting for keeping the classes smaller. I have seen firsthand how individualized education has definitely contributed or impacted student learning. So I believe that to pack classes would be to the detriment of our students. And so that is something that I personally fight for, and it's smaller classes. And so that is something that we definitely pay close attention to. And as the school grows, we are cognizant that we will be adding space. That is actually what we're in conversations now, making sure that as the school grows, that the facility grows along with the student population.
All right, I know we only have about 3 minutes left, but before you do any closing remarks, in the future, are you planning to maybe have an all-female, since we're a female group and we have females? Are you, maybe if this becomes successful, maybe have an all-female school?
We are not opposed to that. We get that question more often than you think, and our response is, right now, this is the call that God has given us to address this epidemic amongst boys of color. And so that's what we're targeting right now, but we're not saying never to the girls. And so hear us, we're not saying never. Once we get a handle on this, then we may expand.
And with the Village of Life, it's going to be open to girls. So after school programs, summer programs, those things, because we know that the girls also need the STEM education. So we're going to have a lot of wraparound services that will also include girls.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate you spending time with us, and I know you have a busy schedule, especially with this on the horizon. So are there any closing remarks?
Well, thank you, and thank you to the National Council of Negro Women for inviting us today. We are looking forward to working with them and other organizations. Please go to Life Male STEAM Academy, or go to lifesteam.org. That's our website. You can learn about us, you can contact us, and we want you to tell every male child that you know that this is the school that's going to save their lives.
And if you see us out at an event or something, and because everywhere we go, we're going to be collecting signatures for support for the school. Please run over, and we'll have sheets with us where you can sign your name in support of Life Male STEAM Academy.
And please donate and give life to a scholar.
Thank you so much, and thank you for listening and calling in. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round, and you can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Ooh.